A very good evening to all. This is Professor Anand Shilwan from Vidyajyoti Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. Today we are going to note an important concept about the disaster unit. In point of a disaster unit, we are going to study about the earthquake disaster unit. Already we have seen some kind of a incidents. We have going to deal on overall the news we have affected towards the earth. That is a point of a Syria and Southeast Syria and Turkey countries, which are affected mostly and have grabbed some kind of a n number of mortality rates day by day increase because of this some changes in the land morphology as well as the land external agency. So the outer atmospheric conditions and inner atmospheric conditions will persist the some kind of a disasters. In point of a disasters, we are going to deal some kind of a important aspects what kind of India will deal and what we have suggest as a point of a technical educator, what we have suggest to the government and as well as the technical educations or how we are going to deal with some kind of a design aspects related to the earthquake resistance as well as some kind of a morphological structures as well as some kind of a structural behavior with respect to the atmospheric conditions as well as inner conditions of the earth's internal layers. This is a point of circular we are going to deal on this concept. On point of a disaster unit, what we can India can survive for the point of a design aspect and future forecasting related to these kind of incidents or all going on the in external morphological of the earth structures. Nowadays we are going to deal some kind of a IT professionals, IT technologies and number of design aspects. We are following some kind of a code of conduct with respect to the government facilities and some kind of a research facilities also, but entirely we have these kind of facilities provided by the government as well as the technicians, but still we couldn't hold the properly the balancing of the atmospheric conditions. So these conditions which the events, the incident happened on the 6th February 2023. Till now also the earth is shaken its outer periphery of the area. What are the main disadvantage, what is the main event, what is the main cause for this kind of a disasters? We have to focus on it. So such that I have to focus and I have to deal some kind of a external research articles and collect with respect to that. What kind of the preparedness will government will follow up? That will be the that will be how posted here. And point of concentration is this the small representation with respect to the related to the government aspect as well as the institutional aspect as well as the technicians and research guardians. So based on the concentration of the above concept, I have to share one of the my presentation here. So let's we have talked and let's we have discussed with respect to this conceptual matter with respect to the exterior morphological structures, as well as this is also called as a orogenic and exogenic structure of the earth morphology. We couldn't focus, we couldn't go against the nature. Whatever it is, it will be terminated as a disaster unit. That is will be considered and as well as classified into two incidents, that is a natural disasters as well as a artificial kind of disasters. As a result we have seen many artificial disasters we have done, we have modified, but we couldn't focus on the environment. So environment gives as a result as a disaster unit in the format of the natural disasters, such that we have to focus on this and what are the criteria we have to implemented here, such that you have to see what are the presentation skills, what the government will be main focus on the main concentration points, and what kind of a consultancies engineers and as well as the design engineers may concentrate on the structurals. And we have seen many posted videos related to the Syria and Turkey. N number of buildings will be collapsed on the surface of the ground, but many of the buildings will be sustained there only. Why? Because of they have conducted code of conduct with respect to the some kind of a design with respect to the IS international standards with respect to their criteria, and they have testing the some kind of a samples with respect to the soil, with respect to the atmospheric conditions, with respect to the these are all criteria, such that the building is still stable, couldn't happen anything else. Such that many nowadays the n number of unskilled engineers will make innumerable buildings that will comes under the disaster units. This is also called as the artificial kind of a disaster. But at the point at the end, if you concentrated on the nature's call, that is called disaster unit, that will be kind of a earthquake, tsunami, fire, uh, forestation, deforestation, and some kind of a variation in the DO, variation in the COD, variation in the BOD, and a point of a soil erosion, soil dusty erosion, dust concentration, then some kind of excessive discharging of the pollen grains from the plants. These are all will be the some same concentration of the disaster units. Already you have affected in previously 2019 as the pandemic. That is also kind of a disaster in which comes under the hospital, which comes under the medical disorders, and some kind of uneven experiments going on, the some kind of a testing samples, such that we have to see. Let's see what are the presentation we have to see, and we have to see here. Those will be. Let's talk about the some kind of a preparedness. India's earthquake preparedness. So, what kind of the country India is focusing on the preparing advanced preparedness for the kind of a earthquake? The point of concentration, the earthquake, what kind of happens will be taken place, such that these are the some kind of a questions arising with the research scholars. So, first point, what are the questions? So, what are earthquakes? What makes India susceptible to earthquakes? Why some parts of India are more prone to earthquakes? What steps can be taken for India's earthquake preparedness? What are the challenges in earthquake management in India? These are the most. So, firstly, on as case study, we have studied about that. Recent happens on February 6, 2023. A powerful earthquake will happen, nearly identical aftershock struck southeast Turkey and Syria, resulting in extensive damage and fatalities. See, these are the some kind of a dimensional data with respect to identical data with respect to the case studies what we have seen. Now, the point of the Turkey and Syria earthquake should spur a review of India's earthquake preparedness. Because the nation generally has a lax enforcement of the zoning and construction regulations. This is one of the most uttermost point. The nation has lax enforcement of zoning and construction regulations. Without knowing the zone area, many construction activities will be going on. At the same kind of way, there is between case there is some changes in the Earth's data or some kind of earth layers, and these will affect the endangered stages in the disaster unit. That's called. We have to focus on the some kind of a design aspects and design criteria also, such that point of concentration. What we have seen, what are earthquakes? An earthquake is a shaking of the earth as a result of interior Earth's crust releasing energy, which creates waves that moves in all directions. All directions. Small tremors to big buildings collapsing are possible during an earthquake. Every minutes there are small vibrations that create minor tremors, but larger earthquakes brought on a faulting in the sense we have seen, we have know some kind of a concepts related to geological aspects. What are the geological aspects in point of a geomorphological concept? Those are normal, reverse, and strike slip. These are all concentrations will comes under the faulting positions, which will cause interruptions. For example, these three criteria of faulting will makes a variation in their layers. Automatically, the earth will shake. This will act as like a earthquake. It's nothing but there is some kind of a lower mantle of the upper crust of the earth will act with respect to the outer humid response. At the same concentration, the earth will make the some kind of a disaster unit will make the devastating as well as the orogenic actions. Orogenic actions in the sense the horizontal plane of the shaking of the plates, interior plate structures will make the huge impact on the sedimented kind of a rock layers as well as some kind of upper crust, which will make some kind of changes in the foundation criteria. It will also relates to the some kind of a unsaturated kind of a soil layer as well as the unsaturated condition of a some kind of a rock layer also. This is the main cause for these all conditions. What makes India susceptible to earthquakes? The point of Himalayan plate border, which has a potential for massive quakes, particularly vulnerable to earthquakes in India because of geographical conditions. 5. The point of concentration of comparing the zone of India or Asian country, the magnitude of the earthquake will be above 7. Above 7. The Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate is the main reason for the earthquake in India. Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian. Eurasian plate means orogenic concentration or exogenic concentration of the Earth's layer. What are the effects? We have to make this some kind of a Himalayan range, Andaman Nicobar range, and some kind of a Deccan Plateau range. These are the observable seismic gaps along the Himalayan axis, where the previous release of geological stress does not completely account for the strain that has built up, according to the scientists. For instance, compared to the other regions, the central Himalayas has a historical experience, fewer earthquakes, so it's one area where a major earthquake can be projected to occur in the future. As we already know that previously we have sensed about this some kind of a vast devastating earthquakes in India also. But in point concentration of highest, the earthquake happened in 2011 in Japan earthquake. With respect to earthquake, the earthquake is simultaneously racked with some kind of a tsunami and a range of waves that can also hits like in a tidal waves, excess of tidal waves. There is some kind of a seismic gaps which refers to a section of an active fault that has had little no seismic activity for an extended period, suggesting the building of tensions that are helpful in the earthquake predictions. Why some parts of India are more prone earthquakes? In point concentration of India, already you have explained about the three main reasons in India. Those are affected prone reasons for the earthquakes. In point concentration, first one, Himalayan belt, second Andaman Nicobar Islands, third Deccan Plateau. Point of Himalayan belt, the collision between the Java Sumatra and Burma plates, or as well as the Indo-Australian Eurasian plates. The energy of underlying rocks is greatly strained by this contact. Some of the energy is released as earthquakes. Subsurface rocks are under the great deal of stress as a result of collision. Two continental plates, the result of this stress is totally under. It results for the earthquakes. Point of Andaman and Nicobar Island. Underwater volcanoes and seafloor movement alter the equilibrium of the Earth's surface. This is one of the most devastating which will affect in the underwater of the in Hindu Ocean. Most preferably, the Hindu Ocean as well as the Arabian Sea will collide with each other with respect to the some kind of a Bay of Bengal region as well as some kind of a terrestrial region as well as some kind of a ancestral region will make impact on the Earth's crust and Earth's atmospheric conditions also. And point of Deccan Plateau, some geologists have proposed a theory explaining the origin of fault line and energy built up along the river Bhima, fault line near Latur and Usmanabad. In point concentration of river Bhima, the fault line near the Latur and Usmanabad. In point of Latur, we have sensed a huge devastating earthquake magnitude affected in 19th era, that is in Kilari Zone. India is a country with a significant earthquake risk due to its growing population and irrational land use for the construction. For point of atmospheric conditions and environmental sigma rule, the land is totally morphologically as well as something irrationally will be growing because of a number of inactivity of the constructions will going on the surface of the earth. The excess of variable in the some kind of way excessive load with respect to the atmospheric humid conditions also affect to the earth sublayer of the zone. Some kind of a building codes and standards which related to the earthquakes. India has set building regulations and requirements for construction that are quake resistant to guarantee that new structures are constructed to withstand earthquakes. It is crucial to properly follow these laws and standards. Regulation inspections and enforcement of current building codes are also necessary for this. Modifying the types of homes and building designs in the most vulnerable locations and discouraging the development of high-rise structures, huge industrial facilities and sprawling urban centers there. Lastly, requiring a big construction projects in susceptible areas to utilize light materials and earthquake-resistant designs. These are the some kind of building codes and standards. Every constructor, every civil engineer, or every structural engineer, or any kind of related to the structural related concepts will focus on these kind of codes as well as these kind of laws. Then only we have to regulate our atmospheric conditions at the utmost position. Otherwise, as we have seen, as we have sensed about the Syria and Turkey countries, the next decade we also affect these kind of affections. Some kind of retrofitting and reinforcement in point concentration, land use, morphological structures, and vulnerability map for India's earthquake preparedness, and the Nation Center for Seismological India's earthquake preparedness. What is the Nation Center for Seismological India's earthquake preparedness? An office under Earth Science Ministry. Government organizations receive reports on seismic surveillance and hazards from it. Earthquake monitoring and services, earthquake hazard and risk assessment, geophysical observation system are its three departments. In point of NERMP, what do you mean by NERP? National Earthquake Risk Mitigation Project, enhancing earthquake mitigation programs, non-structural and structural components, lowering a degree of vulnerability in high-risk areas, in areas with strong seismic activity. Necessary risk reduction measures are put in place. The project's assigned agency, NDMA, has created detailed project report. Point of NBC, point of BMTBC, the same building materials related to the building materials, which is related to the atmospheric conditions, which is related to the government has assigned some kind of a mobile apps also for the advanced forecasting system, which is related to the earthquake waves or seismological waves or seismic wave. Some kind of a NDRF has some kind of helping nature with respect to the catastrophes, including earthquakes. In India, where heritage sites are susceptible to natural catastrophes, including earthquakes, floods, cyclones, tsunami, the National Disaster Response Force works to be the first responder. If we consider as an earthquake is a main disaster, means to focus on to resolve these kind of concentration problem. But these are all concentration and problems and cases will collected by with respect to the NDMA department related to the disaster units. This is a team, this is an authority, National Disaster Management Authority. Act was passed in 2005. Before 2005, there is no any act related to the disaster units, such that this kind of national disaster has multiplied and diversified every state SDMA, State Disaster Management Authority. With respect to the SDMA, they will send to the data to the DDMA, District Disaster Management Unit or Authority. Circularly, challenges in India earthquake preparedness. These are circular. According to NDMA, Ahmedabad's nearly 4,000 multi-story buildings won't withstand a high magnitude earthquake because of a poor design. Building codes are not strictly enforced, safety requirements are not closely maintained. The licensing of structural engineers based on competency is not formally implemented. The difficulties in coordinating the response to the floods in Uttarakhand indicate that disaster response system has shortcomings. The regime for generating awareness is not effective through the local populace was not sufficiently trained for the post-disaster operations. These are the some kind of challenges which affected in the earthquake concept in India's preparedness. So, that government has advanced forecasting these kind of situations as well as some kind of zoning areas how they maintained mandatory to make this some kind of a building codes, use of these kind of laws to secure and procure for the some kind of earthquake resistance and disaster units. What are the way forward? The NDMA earthquake recommendations must be followed exactly. First one. Second, the seismic zones with very high risk of earthquake issues, specific departments earthquake management must be established. In the hilly region, it is important to encourage a traditional khasi house, granting tax breaks to those who have constructed structures with earthquake resistance. It is necessary to establish a single point of contact for all response divisions to improve coordination. It is necessary to enhance the skills and capabilities of local communities. The empowerment of panchayats and municipal corporations in earthquake management and response would be a efficient method to do that. The fund and technology know how much added to the state governments. The localized research and programming research and development centers must be established in states like Uttarakhand and high-risk regions. For high-risk states, paradigm diplomacy in disaster aid can be useful tool for the operation. These are the some kind of a way forward which will concentrating on the main disaster concept of earthquake. If we sustain, we have to focus on this kind of a code of context. If you don't want, we have to well and being that we have seen this some kind of situations in nearby days also. So focus on the environment, focus on the earthquake, focus on the disaster units, focus on the future preparedness as well as during the construction purposes. Also, we have to make some kind of assurance with respect to earthquake resistance buildings. If earthquake happens, there will be no any kind of a disaster and devastating incident will not be happening. Okay, thank you.